The UN Security Council's permanent members have finally agreed on a draft resolution that would rid Syria of its chemical weapons. The document imposes legally binding obligations on all parties of the Syrian conflict, although penalties for non-compliance will not be automatic. Here's Anissa Narwe now with the details of an agreement being seen as a landmark diplomatic breakthrough.
Vitaly Turkin, Russian ambassador to the UN, has said that the Council could vote on Friday on this resolution. The 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council reached an agreement on Thursday over the wording of binding and enforceable text to eliminate Syria's stockpiles of chemical weapons. Now, the resolution doesn't allow for immediate Chapter 7 action of the UN Charter, which allows for military and non-military action in case of non-compliance, but would need to be reviewed and put to a vote if that becomes the case. Here's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov.
The resolution that will be submitted to other UN Security Council members conforms to the Geneva Agreement on the destruction of Syria's chemical weapons. It does not provide for any Chapter 7 actions. The resolution includes an agreement that was reached in Geneva stating that the Security Council can go back to reviewing the resolution only in the case of a breach of its proceedings by any of the sides, including the opposition, or in the case of chemical weapons use by any side. If that happens, the Council can act on those cases, under Chapter 7 as well, but only in accordance of the degree of that violation and if it is 100% proved.
Now, as the Foreign Minister mentioned, the draft resolution backs the agreement reached in Geneva regarding Syria's commitment to place its chemical weapons stockpile under international control. If there's any violation by any party, as the resolution calls on the opposition to assist in the disarmament process. This was an important point for Russia, that both sides hold accountability. And really, this is a major breakthrough when you think about how less than a month ago, it looked like Russia and the U.S. would never agree, and Obama was ready to bomb Damascus. Now, it was Russia and the U.S. that put forward this resolution on Syria and the steps to eliminate its chemical weapons. And it's important to point out that it also endorses fully the Geneva communique, which was put forward in June, which for one calls for all members, all sides, I should say, in the Syrian conflict to meet as soon as possible to discuss a possible transitional government, which would have full executive power and that would be able to have members of the current government. So really, this is a breakthrough in the 2.5-year both conflict and deadlock on the Syrian crisis.
Well, Eugene Perrier from the Anti-War Answer Coalition says the agreement on Syria's disarmament doesn't mean similar diplomatic successes should be expected.
I think it shows that we're trending towards a diplomatic solution, at least on the issue of chemical weapons. But the other issue that still will remain outstanding is what will happen outside of the issue of chemical weapons. Will diplomacy be pursued by the United States, or will they continue to fund, as they have, the opposition and arm the opposition and facilitate that happening and try to deepen the conflict and overthrow Assad in another way? I think certainly if the Security Council reconvenes and this chemical weapons agreement is off track, we could be in a place where war could happen again, but I'd like to hope that that's not the case. We've seen that the Syrian regime has been far more willing than the rebel forces to engage in diplomacy on many issues. If you remember, it was the Syrian regime that accepted the Russian and American proposal for the Geneva II peace talks, and the rebels that rejected it. So I certainly think that despite what we hear in a lot of the United States media, there's no reason to think that Syria won't hold up their end of the bargain, particularly after they so enthusiastically pursued the Russian proposal for a diplomatic solution.